Hey guys, welcome back to MorganSnail Reads. Today I am doing my January wrap-up for you. I had a pretty decent reading month this month, and titles with mixed reviews, so let's get into this. The first book I read in 2017 was Marrow by Ananda Braxton Smith, and this is a book set in a small rural town in a place that I don't think they explicitly say is Ireland, but might as well be Ireland. But it's this small coastal village where superstitions are still really prevalent and a part of the culture, and it's about this girl who has lost her mother under mysterious circumstances and is sort of searching for the answers to that. And the first, half of this book, I was saying to people, I was like, this is like a book that's written for me. My favorite film growing up was an Irish film called The Secret of Roan Inish, which is about this little girl who has to go out and live with her grandparents at this kind of very small Irish village, and their family history is revealed that there are selkies in their past, which are seals that can shed their skin and turn into beautiful women, and this book reminded me a lot of that. So for the first half I was like, yes, this book is awesome, and then the second half, that feeling quickly deteriorated and I was kind of bummed out, I'm not gonna lie. So I was not exactly satisfied with the ending or the way that things wrapped up, which is, it's usually the opposite, where I'll take a while to warm up to a book, but then the second half I'm like, alright, no, this is good. So that was kind of a bummer to have that happen. Next book I read was the first audiobook I've listened to in, I honestly don't know how long, but it was The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, and it's narrated by him, which was awesome. And I think that there was a lot of subtle things that maybe I would have missed in the text but picked up because he was reading. He's really, really great at narrating audiobooks. But this is the story of this grown man who goes back to his childhood roots, kind of where his house was, and he runs into this family and sort of has this rush of memory. So the bulk of the story is him as a little boy and all this stuff that went on that he's forgotten or repressed, and you're not really sure how it all ties together. But it is actually exceptionally hard to talk about without being spoilery. I should have written something down, because I'm like, if you've read it, you'll understand what I mean, because it's sort of plot point. But basically, he lives in this quiet, secluded little hamlet in England, and over the course of the book, in true Neil Gaiman fashion, everything goes topsy-turvy, and it's quite a dark little piece of fiction, with a lot of magical and mystical elements thrown in there, and I really, really enjoyed it. I love Neil Gaiman's writing. I'm reading Neverwhere right now. You're welcome, Emily! And I was sad when it finished, because I wouldn't be able to visit that world anymore. So that's decent praise. The third book I read this year, or this month, I don't know things, was Vasa in the Night by Sarah Porter. And this is one of the strangest books I've ever read in my life. I got this from the Owl Crate a couple months ago, and I kept starting it and then kind of not really feeling it and going away, and then finally I reached a point where I was like, alright, this is tracking, and then it took a detour, and I honestly don't really know how I feel about this book. It's a modern adaptation of a Russian fairy tale, and it's set in this dystopian alternate reality of Brooklyn, New York. It was kind of all over the place, and I feel like maybe I'm missing some overarching symbolism, but I just kind of found myself, slogging through. To its credit, I really did like the character of Vasa, who's our main character, as you can tell by the title. She is really spunky and original, and she's a young woman who is misunderstood and doesn't really have a place in her world at the beginning of the book. And that was the thing that kind of kept me going with this, was that I did really appreciate the character. But overall. And then we have The Snow Child, which I did a full review on, so I won't talk too much. This is by Eowyn Ivey. It's a book set in Alaska in the 1920s, and it follows the story of Jack and Mabel, who are a middle-aged couple who are secluded both physically, as in geographic location, and just kind of cut off from the world and even from each other at the start of the book. And in the course of the book, they build a snow child, like a snowman, and they give it mittens and a scarf that were kind of symbolic to them in their lives. And then they go to bed, and it's this nice happy moment, and when they wake up in the morning, the figure has disappeared along with the scarf and the mittens. And very quickly after that, they begin to see this child running through the woods, and it's... oh, it just goes from there. This is a really great book. It is very character-driven, so if you like really fast-paced, action-based novels, this probably isn't going to strike your fancy. But if you're somebody like me who just loves falling in love with rich characters who take a while to warm up to you as a reader, even, this is... yeah. Next book I can't find my copy of anywhere, which I need to remedy because I wanted to pass it on to one of my friends, but it is The Ruins of Gorlon by John Flanagan, and it's the first book in the Ranger's Apprentice series. This is a middle grade fantasy that I think I blazed through it in like a day. It's super fun. It's a lighthearted kind of coming of age story. I think for younger kids who are just getting into fantasy, this is a great, like, gateway book. It brought me back to when I would just spend hours, like, running around in the woods playing pretend Lord of the Rings. So any book that can evoke those feelings, I, like, have a complete sentimentality towards, and I really enjoyed it for that reason. Okay. This next book I rented from the library and took back the day I finished it because I wanted it out of my life. This is Brilliance by Marcus Saki, and it is the angriest I have been reading a book in a long time. I was, like, texting my friends, like, I hate reading this stupid novel. And then I reached this point where I started texting pictures of the pages, and I would be like, I predict, like, by the end of the next chapter, this is gonna happen, they're gonna have this exact bit of dialogue, this plot development is gonna come as a twist. And sure enough, I was right, and then I would send the corresponding pictures of the pages being like, I told you! This book is like a poorly executed political intrigue thriller plus X-Men, and it's written like somebody's screenplay that they sent and then it wasn't accepted, so they're like, I'm gonna turn it into a novel. I was like 20 pages in and I was like, oh no, because this is almost a 500-page book, and it just... basically there are these people who started being born with these extraordinary abilities who, at first were super praised because they could, you know, predict the stock markets, or they'd be exceptionally strong or really good at reading people. But then quickly over time, like, it became like a war between the brilliants, as they're called, and like the normal people, and it just... But, coming off of Brilliance, I read Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli, which was lovely, and I'm so sad that I did not grow up with this book because it's just wonderful. And actually about halfway through, as you can see it's a library book, about halfway through reading this I turned the page and this like shower of silver glitter fell out, and that was just the most magical like Stargirl moment ever. This book follows a boy who's trying to find his place in high school, and he's kind of a little bit introverted and a little bit... like, he's not unpopular, but he's not the coolest guy in school. And this girl, who calls herself Stargirl, starts attending, and she's just very strange, and she plays the ukulele very loudly at lunch, and she sings strangers happy birthday. It's his story of learning to embrace or not embrace something that's so different. And it's very interesting. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be, and the way that it wraps up was so satisfactory. And if you've read this book, please comment, because I would love to talk about it. I want to go and pick up the next one, which I think is With Love from Stargirl, or Love Stargirl or something, which, as I understand it, is the story kind of from her perspective and what she does after this book wraps up. So I'm excited to get into that in February. And the last book I read in January was Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, who I know we're all supposed to hate because of Eat, Pray, Love, but I really love her. And if you're a creative person who is looking for inspiration or struggling, or even if you're not, if you're just a person who puts creative content onto the internet or whatever form your expression takes, this is a really great book. And I think I needed to read this, and it's kind of helped light my fire and get me super charged up, and I'm really glad I read it in the first month of this year to be able to kind of draw from it and use that to fuel me as we continue on. So that is my wrap up for the month of January. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back soon with my next video in the Books to Drink Blank with series. Alrighty, bye guys!